Our live storm watch coverage continues here on the Weather Network. Michelle Mackey joining you, and lots to talk about. I'm glad you're here. We've got two major systems, one on the west coast, but first let's talk about that nor'eastern affecting Atlantic Canada and also Ontario, Quebec. Quite a lot going on. So let's start by looking at the radar. So where we see the areas in blue, that's where we're looking at snow, and significant snowfall at that. The areas in pink, that's where we run the risk of seeing some freezing rain. So we have the potential of some very icy conditions. I'll touch more on that coming up. And rain is the big story for Nova Scotia and through our Maritimes. But first, I want to take you back to Ontario. Let's talk about the numbers. The big story is the amount of snow falling through the GTA on Thursday morning. So you are definitely going to need to set the alarm clocks a little bit earlier because the morning commute likely to be a messy one. So as we can see through Friday, 10 to 15 centimeters of snow for Toronto. Unfortunately, we're looking at about 10 of that to fall through the pre-dawn hours from 3 a.m. to about 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So give yourself some more time. As we track further to the north, those snowfall numbers begin to increase, and that's why Environment Canada has issued a snowfall warning for the areas highlighted in blue. So that includes Cottage Country, Parry Sound, further south to Gravenhurst, and wrapping around towards Wyerton. All right, now remember how I was showing you the radar and I was talking about those different types of precipitation that we're seeing? This just explains it a little bit more. So blue, snow, pink is the freezing rain. Now, freezing rain, treacherous road conditions. So the problem with that is we can't see it on the roads. We can feel it though when we start to drive and we start slipping and sliding. And that's why Environment Canada has also issued some freezing rain warnings, some winter storm warnings, and some snowfall warnings as well. So all in all, this nor'eastern bringing a lot of action. All right, we take you now to the East Coast. This was some nasty footage from St. John, New Brunswick. You can see lots of water. So much rainfall in such a short period of time. When we're driving, we run the risk of hydroplaning, right? So if you can see a puddle, try and avoid it, go around it. Better slow and safe than fast and sorry, right? All right, let's take a look at the amount of rain we've already seen. So this is through Tuesday evening. St. John, again, where we just saw that video, 62 millimeters of rain and more on the way. You can see in our infrared satellite here, the cloud tops where we see the really dense purple, that's where we're looking at the most active weather. So lots of precipitation for those areas. Okay, let's talk rainfall amounts. So for the areas highlighted in red, including Halifax, Lunenburg, we're looking at 60 to 100 millimeters of rain through Thursday. Okay, so that's your total. We've already seen a lot of that, but it will continue through the evening hours. We're also looking at New Brunswick with that rainfall, Fredericton, St. John, and Moncton. Freezing rain again as we head further towards the Gaspé Peninsula. All right, and from the East Coast, a little bit of everything. We had our reporter Deb Matiechka out earlier today, and the poor girl, what a trooper. She was just getting absolutely soaked with all of that rain. And the wind, that's another thing. So the peak wind gusts as Monday to Tuesday, we're looking at some massive amounts, hurricane force winds through Solander Island, and that's why we have some wind warnings currently in effect issued by Environment Canada. Now, lots more to talk about, so we want you to stick around as our live storm watch coverage continues. This kind of weather, yes, lots of wind, lots of rain. More to come on that, but first let's talk about the situation with our heavy rain and flooding. So southern British Columbia, we actually have a few states of emergency currently in place. So flood watches and warnings affect the parts of Vancouver Island and the Central Coast. Those include Courtenay and Parkville. And as we move closer to Vancouver, Delta also in a state of emergency. That's where we had Deb Matiechka earlier today, and the footage is absolutely incredible. All right, let's take a look at what more we can expect through Thursday. So west coast of Vancouver Island, we're looking at an additional 30 plus millimeters of rain. And to give you an idea of how much rain has already fallen, Kennedy Lake, just outside of Tofino, has already seen 377 millimeters of rain since Monday. So with 30 more to go, this is a lot of rain, even with British Columbia standards. I know we're hardy folk out there, but this, yes, is a lot of rain, and we do want to take this seriously, and that is why Environment Canada has issued a rainfall warning. That's currently in effect for the areas highlighted highlighted in green, including the majority of Vancouver Island, and it also stretches to the coast where we see Vancouver, Pitt Meadows, and Squamish all in that area. Now let's talk winds, because this is another big part of the story. So before we get into it, I just want to explain this map a little bit better. So the areas highlighted in red, that's where we're looking at sustained winds between 40 and 60 kilometers per hour. So we can see right now along the shores of Vancouver Island, it is gusty. That southerly flow is warming up the temperatures, yes, but the price we pay, lots of wind. That will be easing as we move into Thursday. We begin to see, some of those oranges and yellows indicating lighter rain. But for tonight, do make sure you have all of your outdoor furniture secured down, and if not, maybe a good idea to bring it inside. All right, we chose, and if you would ever like to send any in, you can do that at upload.theweathernetwork.com. All right, let's get back to it. So in terms of our snowfall forecast, what are the numbers? As we track up towards the Gaspé Peninsula, the areas in white, we're looking at 25 to 50 centimeters of snow. So in terms of the driving conditions, they're going to be treacherous. Do you have your snow tires on? If not, it's probably a good idea to book that as soon as possible. So right now, lots going on. You can see Environment Canada wind warning in effect for western portions of Newfoundland. We're looking at wind gusts exceeding that 100 kilometer per hour mark. We've also got freezing rain warnings for the areas in pink. So just further south, that transition line, it's a little bit too cold for rain, but a little bit too warm for snow. So what do we get? Freezing rain. All right, now further to the south towards our Maritime provinces, rain is going to be the big story. Halifax, Lunenburg, we're looking at 60 to 100 millimeters of rain through our Thursday. Much of this has already fallen, but nonetheless, be careful if you're out on the roads, even in the rain, because when we have so much rain fall in such a short period of time, the ground doesn't have a chance to absorb it, so we run the risk of hydroplaning. In Montreal, and he'll have all of the latest there. But right now, let's get back to our weather story. So, snowfall warning currently in effect for the areas highlighted in blue. Mount Tremblant, though, not the worst news for you. Of course, you have the resorts, the ski resorts open. So if you're thinking of heading up this weekend for an early season ski or snowboard, not bad news. But the bad news is this freezing rain warning. Freezing rain is never good news. All right, now lots of snow again as we move into Ontario. We're going to have more on that coming up. Specifically, we're going to talk about your GTA Thursday morning commute. Stick around. Thanks so much for tuning into the Weather Network as our live storm watch coverage continues. Lots to talk about. We have a system on the west coast and we have a nor'eastern on the east coast. Let's start out with that system on the east. Now, this is a pretty big system, so much so that it's not only affecting our maritime provinces, but it's wrapping around affecting portions of Quebec and also Ontario. So as we can see in this radar here, the green, that's an indication of rain. So that's our big story for the Maritimes. I'll get to that shortly. But as we move into the blues, that's where we are seeing snowfall. Now, in particular, you are going to want to set your alarms a little bit early for that GTA Thursday morning commute, because we are expecting a lot of snow through the pre-dawn hours, continuing right into those peak rush hour times. So as we can see here, 10 to 15 centimeters of snow on tap for Toronto through Friday, but the bulk of this is going to be falling Thursday morning. Yes, so do take a little bit of extra time. You're going to need it. As we transition further to the north, we begin to see these snowfall amounts increase. And that's why Environment Canada has currently issued snowfall warnings for the areas highlighted in blue. We're looking at an additional 15 centimeters of snow on top of the 10 centimeters or so that has already fallen through tomorrow. So North Bay, Parry Sound, Huntsville, Gravenhurst, Barrie, and Wyerton, you are all in that snowfall warning. So do take care if you're heading out on the roads. All right, now remember that radar that we talked about right at the start. This is an enhanced version of that. That just gives us some clarification on what we're looking at. Blue, that's your snow. Pink, that's your mixing line. So that's when it's a bit too cold for rain and it's a bit too warm for snow. So what do we get with that? Freezing rain, which obviously means treacherous driving conditions. So if you are in the areas highlighted in red, that's where you really need to be careful. Now, moving into our Maritimes, rain is the big story for our reporter Nathan Coleman out in the field, and he was absolutely drenched, but what a trooper. So where he was, St. John, 62 millimeters of rain. That was our total as of the evening today at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. But more is on tap. Let's take a look now at our cloud tops. So as we can see in the infrared radar, where we see the really dark purples, that's where we're seeing the majority of the active weather, the majority of the precipitation, okay? So right now we're sitting over that Moncton area, Halifax, and as we move into the night, those rainfall totals continue to just get bigger and bigger. So areas in red, we're looking at 60 to 100 millimeters of rain through your Thursday, including Fredericton, Moncton, St. John, and that also affects Halifax and Lunenburg on the east coast of Nova Scotia. So rainfall warnings currently in effect, and again, that freezing rainfall warning as we head further north into New Brunswick. At the rainfall totals we've already seen. What stands out to me here? Kennedy Lake, 377 millimeters of rain since Monday. To give you an idea of how much rain this is, typically for the entire month of December for this area, 400 millimeters of rain. So even in West Coast standards, this is a lot. We also have a wind warning in effect. We'll talk about that in a moment, but first, additional rainfall. So on top of those 377 millimeters of rain we've already seen, we can expect another 30 more. Now, we would love for you to connect with us, and if you want to upload any photos or videos, you can do that at upload.theweathernetwork.com. Stick around. To more on your Ottawa story shortly. My name is Michelle Mackey. Thanks for being with us. Let's talk right now about our snow amounts through Ontario. So the big story is that 10 to 15 centimeters we're looking at for Toronto. Now, I know this map says through Friday morning, but the bulk of this snow, at least 10 centimeters of it for the GTA, will be falling during your morning commute. So definitely want to give yourself some extra time. We all know what happens when we have, 1, maybe 2 centimeters of snow on the ground in Toronto. So 10 centimeters, it is bound to be backed up. All right, as we track further into northern Ontario around Cottage Country, that's where we have our snowfall warnings currently in effect. These have been issued by Environment Canada. We're looking at an additional 15 centimeters of snow to fall throughout the night. So road conditions are going to be absolutely treacherous. Take your time, and if you don't have your snow tires on yet, probably a good idea to book those. All right, now back to our Ottawa story. -2 through the overnight, and that snow continues. We're approaching that 15 centimeter mark by the morning. But as we move into the morning hours, after that morning commute, that's when we begin to see the snow ease up a little bit. So from heavy snow into light flurries. All right, further to the East Coast, this is where we see our snowfall warning in effect for areas in Quebec, including Montreal and Montreal. We're looking at significant snowfall through the overnight. Not bad news for skiers and snowboarders up towards Mount Tremblant, but of course driving conditions in Montreal not so nice. Now, where we see the pink, that's our freezing rain warning. So freezing rain when we're driving, not a good combination. Let's take you now further. Mike Arsenault with us, coming from Montreal. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But first, let's take a look now at our different types of precipitation. So like I was saying, that freezing rain line, all of that highlighted in the pink. That's our transition line. As we track further to the south, where we see the green, that is where we see the rain. Through pre-dawn Thursday, we begin to see that rain line increase slightly, warmer air being pushed up from the south. But let's take a look now at our cloud tops. So this is our infrared satellite. You can see here where we see the dense areas of purple. That's where we're looking at the most precipitation. So you can see right now, Halifax, Moncton really getting hit. As we track further north in our Maritime provinces through New Brunswick, that's where we begin to see significant snowfall come into play. So areas highlighted in white, including Edmundston and up towards the Gaspé Peninsula, 25 to 50 centimeters of snow through Thursday. So this is quite significant. Lots of watches and warnings in effect. We also have wind warnings, freezing rain warning, and winter storm warnings, all in effect for eastern Canada. Let's talk more now about the rain, shall we? All right, so through your Thursday areas in red, that's where we're seeing the bulk of our rain. How much? 60 to 100 millimeters more than what we've already seen. Okay, we take you now from the east coast to the west coast, British Columbia, and through portions of Vancouver Island. We'll talk more about that coming up. But right now, let's take a look at the rainfall totals we've already seen. Now, what comes to mind when I look here? Kennedy Lake. 377 millimeters of rain that has fallen since Monday. To give you an idea of how much rain this is, typically for this area, 400 millimeters is what we see in a month. So even for West Coast standards, this is a lot of rain. This is something to take very seriously. And on top of that, we're looking at an additional 30 more millimeters of rain. So lots more to come. Stay with us as our live storm watch coverage continues. Our live storm watch coverage continues here on the Weather Network. I'm Michelle Mackey joining you, and we have lots to talk about. Two big systems. We have one in the Pacific affecting British Columbia, and we have a nor'eastern affecting both Atlantic Canada and central Canada as well. And that's where we start our weather story. Let's take a look on our radar. So as we can see here, the blue, that's an indication of snowfall. So right now it's moving into eastern Ontario, already affecting Quebec City, Montreal. Where we see the pink, that's our transition line. That's where we're looking at freezing rain, treacherous driving conditions. I'll touch more on that, but first, let's talk about the snowfall amount. So through Toronto, we're looking at 10 to 15 centimeters through Friday. But keep in mind, the bulk of this snow is going to fall Thursday morning for that morning commute. So yes, you are going to want to set the alarm clocks a little bit earlier because we could possibly be doubling the amount of time it takes to get the kids to school and to get into work. So 10 centimeters at least of this likely to fall by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. As we track further to the north, those snowfall amounts begin to increase, and that's why Environment Canada has currently issued snowfall warnings for the areas highlighted in blue, including North Bay down towards Parry Sound and Barrie Cottage Country. All of this in that snowfall warning we're looking at. An additional 15 centimeters of snow to fall through the overnight. Now, as we track further to the east, let's take a look at what's happening in our Maritime provinces. The big story is rain for Nova Scotia, PEI, and New Brunswick. But as we transition further north into New Brunswick, we begin to see that transition line, and above that, snow. Also, lots of snow for Quebec and Montreal. Montreal, that's where our reporter Mike G. Arsenault is, and he'll be joining us very shortly with all of the latest from there. But first, let's take you to the East Coast. This is the scene, and will this continue for your Thursday? Yes, it will. So do take care. If you're out on the roads, definitely make sure you have those snow tires on and you're always going slow. All right, now let's take a look at our rainfall totals. These are the numbers we've already seen. St. John of note, 62 millimeters of rain. More on the way. Let's look now at our infrared satellite. These are our cloud tops. So where we see the really dense colors, the purples, that's where we're looking at the most precipitation. So back to our Maritimes, rain in terms of the amounts we're looking at, 60 to 100 millimeters, more than we've already seen. Those are your totals through a Thursday evening. So Halifax, Lunenburg, definitely going to need to pack the kids with their umbrellas, waterproof clothes, and take care driving on the roads. We always run the risk of hydroplaning when we have significant rainfall in a short period of time. Okay, so better safe than sorry. Rainfall warnings currently in effect, freezing rain warnings as we head further to the north. Now let's talk about that other system where we're going to be waking up to quite a soggy day and quite a windy day as well. These were our peak wind gusts from Monday through the start of the week. Of note, Solander Island. These are hurricane force wind gusts, 157 kilometers per hour. So if you thought it was maybe a good idea to put those winter holiday decorations up outside, it may be a good idea to bring them inside tonight if they're not secured so you don't find them down the road tomorrow. Wind warning currently in effect. It has died down. We're not looking at that wind warning quite as widespread as it was earlier today. But let's talk about rain. Here's what we've already seen. Kennedy Lake, 377 millimeters of rain since Monday. Very significant. More to come. Stay with us as our storm watch coverage continues. Thanks so much for that, Chrissy. Now, Chrissy will be back with us starting at 9 p.m. from the GTA, back out in all of that cold, snowy weather. I'm Michelle Mackey. Thanks so much for tuning into the Weather Network as we continue our live storm watch coverage. This right here is our radar. So as we can see, the blue, that is snow and a lot of it. So as we move into Toronto, that's where we begin to see 10 to 15 centimeters of snow accumulate through the morning hours. So yes, this says through Friday, but the bulk of the snowfall through the morning commute through Toronto. So we're looking at about 10 centimeters of that to fall before 10 a.m. So definitely make sure to set your alarm clocks a little bit earlier. You may have to double the time it takes you to get to work and get the kids to school. As we track further to the north, that's when we begin to see those snowfall amounts increase quite significantly. And as such, Environment Canada has issued snowfall warnings for the areas highlighted in blue. An additional 15 centimeters through the overnight hours. That's what's expected. So North Bay, Parry Sound, Huntsville, Gravenhurst, and through Cottage Country, Barrie, and Wyerton, all included in this area. So if you don't have your snow tires on the car quite yet, probably a good idea to avoid travel if you don't have to, or book an appointment to get those snow tires on ASAP, because as you know, driving without them can be quite treacherous. All right, let's take a look further to the east. So blue, that's our snowfall. Where we see the pink, that's where we're looking at freezing rain. Freezing rain also leads to treacherous road conditions. As we track further to the south, the green, that's our big story for Nova Scotia and our Maritimes as we move into tomorrow. Of course, this is all thanks to a nor'eastern system. So everything that we're seeing in Ontario, Quebec, and through our Maritime provinces, all thanks to this low pressure system off the Atlantic. All right, now let's transition out later on this week. All right, let's take a look now at the rainfall totals that we've already seen. St. John, we're looking at 62 millimeters of rain that has already fallen. So we're looking to increase that quite significantly, probably topping off around that 100 millimeter mark. Also driving in the rain, not a good idea, especially when we run the risk of hydroplaning. Let's take a look at the cloud tops. So where we see the really dense areas, those dark purples, that's where we're looking at the most precipitation. So as of right now, Moncton, Halifax, you are getting quite a bit of rain. So much so that by Thursday evening, 60 to 100 millimeters expected. So that includes Halifax, Lunenburg, and also portions of New Brunswick, including Moncton, St. John, and Fredericton. So Environment Canada has issued rainfall warnings and freezing rainfall warnings for these areas. In terms of our snowfall amounts, as we head towards the Gaspé Peninsula, Edmundston and Bathurst included, we're looking at upwards of 25 centimeters of snow. So that's the big story as well. So gusty that we're actually looking at hurricane force winds here. Solander Island. This is for the start of the week, the highest wind gust recorded 157 kilometers per hour. So gusty. If you happen to maybe start your holiday decorations, maybe a good idea to bring in some of those decorations and outdoor furniture as well through the overnight so it doesn't blow away. We still do have a wind warning in effect for the area highlighted in yellow. This has shrunken down quite a bit from those widespread wind warnings we saw earlier throughout the day. Rainfall totals, look at some of these numbers, 377 millimeters near Kennedy Lake. Thanks for that, Kasha. And you know, not everyone hates the snow. It's actually quite aesthetically pleasing, and with Christmas, of course, less than 2 weeks away now, believe it or not, I know, it's actually putting me in the Christmas spirit, so that's the good news. May not be so good for commuters in the GTA come Thursday morning. I'll get to that in just a moment, but first let's take a look at our radar. So as we can see, the blue, that's where we're looking at snow. So we're looking at snow through the eastern townships of Quebec, stretching down to Montreal, Ottawa, where we're already seeing that snow, as Kasha just showed us, and it's stretching towards Toronto for the morning. Now, definitely want to make sure you set your alarm a little bit earlier than usual, because that morning commute could be significantly slowed down. 10 to 15 centimeters in Toronto through Friday, but 10 centimeters of this is going to fall by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, and it will start around 3 a.m. So just in time for that morning commute. As we track further to the north, that's when we begin to see snowfall amounts greatly increase, and that's why Environment Canada has issued snowfall warnings for the areas highlighted in blue. So that includes North Bay, Huntsville, Parry Sound, Gravenhurst, stretching down towards Cottage Country, Barrie, and Wyerton, all of which included in this snowfall forecast. All right, now as we transition to the Maritimes, that's when we begin to see a transition into freezing rain and then rain. We'll get to more of that in just a moment, but first, yes, plenty more on the way. St. John, that footage you were just looking at, already received 62 millimeters of rain. By Thursday into Friday, we're going to top off around that 100 millimeter mark, though some areas locally could see about 150 millimeters of rain. Yes, so it's going to be treacherous in terms of driving conditions, because as we know, when we get so much rain that falls in such a short period of time, we run the risk of hydroplaning. Okay, let's take you back now. This is our cloud top infrared radar. So where we see the dense areas, the purples, that's where we're looking at the majority of our precipitation. So as we can see here through Thursday, just as as I was saying, we're going to be topping off around that 100 millimeter of rain mark for our totals for the areas highlighted in red. That includes Halifax and Lunenburg. So Environment Canada has issued those rainfall warnings. They are still in effect. We also have freezing rain warnings as we head further to the north along that transition line, and then above that, of course, the snow areas in white, upwards of 25 centimeters of snow. All right, now our other big story is, of course, the system on the west coast. We have quite a nasty storm coming in. The evacuations are in order. I'm Michelle Mackey joining you. Of course, lots to talk about. Evacuation, states of emergency. Right now, we do have states of emergency in parts of the Vancouver Island and the Central Coast, including Courtenay, Parkville, and Delta. So those are all areas where we are seeing big flood risks and already seeing some localized flooding as well. And that's because this big Pacific system has already dropped so much rain, and there's more to come. So through the west coast of Vancouver Island, we're looking at an additional 30 to 60 millimeters of rainfall through your Thursday. To give you an idea of how much rain this is, Kennedy Lake, just outside of Tofino, has already seen 300, and it's a lot of rain even for BC standards. Okay, so that is why Environment Canada has issued a rainfall warning for the areas highlighted in green. Now that stretches also to the inner coast. That we've got Whistler, Squamish, Vancouver, and Pitt Meadows all in that rainfall warning. We're looking at significant rainfall through the overnight. It will begin to ease off as we move in to our Thursday afternoon, and then come Friday afternoon, that's when we really begin to see some sun once again. Now, another big issue along with the rainfall in terms of this big system is the wind. So sustained winds, as of right now, we're looking at sustained winds between 40 and 60 kilometers per hour for the areas highlighted in red. So because of that southerly flow, yes, we are seeing those warm double-digit temperatures well above seasonal, but the price we pay is very gusty conditions. We've already seen winds throughout the start of this week at about 150 kilometer per hour gusts on the west coast of Vancouver Island. So this wind will continue through the overnight. It will begin to ease as we move into Thursday and into your Friday, but nonetheless, do make sure if you have any outdoor decorations, it might be a good idea to bring them inside through the overnight because, yes, we don't want those flying away. All right, it's also going to be affecting central Canada as well, Quebec and Ontario. I'll get to that in just a moment, but first let's start with our story in the Maritime. So areas in the white, that's where we're looking at 25 to 50 centimeters of snow through your Thursday. Okay, so the driving conditions are going to be absolutely treacherous. If you don't have snow tires on your car yet, take care. It's going to be slow going. As we transition further to the south, we begin to see some freezing rain. I'll get to that in just a moment, but first, let's take a look at Environment Canada's watches and warnings that have been issued. So we have a wind warning in the areas highlighted in yellow, so western portions of Newfoundland. We're also looking at a freezing rain warning through the areas in pink. That's our transition line. So as you know, the worst part about freezing rain is that you can't really see it until you start driving, and then you feel it when you start sliding on the roads. All right, now let's take a look a little bit further to the south where we see the red. That's where we're looking at rainfall totals, exceeding 60 millimeters through Thursday. So with all of the latest, if we look at the radar right now, you can see Montreal under that snowfall. So they are getting really, really significant snow through the overnight, looking at an additional 10 centimeters of snow on top of the amount that's already fallen. As we track further to the south, again, there's our freezing rain line for Sherbrooke, Plaster Rock, and then Fredericton. That's when we begin to see the rain. Now, we always love for you to connect with us, particularly in times when we have so much active weather. So we would love for you to be our eyes of the storm, and you can tweet us at the Weather Network. Thanks so much for that, Kasha. And I'm Michelle Mackey. Thank you so much for tuning in to our live storm watch coverage. Of course, lots going on from coast to coast. We begin in central Canada and eastern Canada, where we are seeing the effects of a nor'eastern low pressure system bringing with it snowfall. And we've also got freezing rain, and then we have more rain for the Maritime. So a little bit of everything, but we are going to focus on the snow right now, making its way into Ontario. Of course, Ottawa already seeing that snowfall. It looks very pretty though. Not so pretty though for drivers, particularly for GTA Thursday morning commuters, because we are going to be seeing significant snowfall through the pre-dawn hours starting at about 3 a.m. and we're going to be seeing 10 centimeters of snow accumulate by 10 a.m. So it's going to be a bit of a messy commute, a slow commute, give yourself a little bit of extra time. You can see here 10 to 15 centimeters of snow expected for Toronto through Friday. Again, I want to stress that the bulk of this will be falling Thursday morning. All right, as we track further to the north, we begin to see those snowfall totals increase. 15 to 25 centimeters expected, the bulk of which will be falling through the overnight, and that is why Environment Canada has issued snowfall warnings for the areas highlighted in blue up to the north towards Parry Sound, Huntsville, Gravenhurst, and south towards Cottage Country. All right, let's take you now further to the east. Yes, and plenty more. By the end of Thursday, we could be looking at upwards of 100 millimeters of rain. So more on tap. Keep the umbrellas handy. You're certainly going to need it. But as we head further to the north, you won't really need the umbrellas. Rather, you're going to need the snow shovels. You can see the blue here. That's our indication of where we're seeing snow. Quite a bit of it as we head towards the Gaspé Peninsula. We could see upwards of 25 centimeters. Further to the south, this is our transition line. The area in pink, that's where we're looking at freezing rain. Again, freezing rain and driving, they don't go well together. Rain, that's the big story as we head down further into the southern portions of New Brunswick, PEI, and through Halifax and Nova Scotia. But let's talk right now about more warnings that have been issued by Environment Canada. We're looking at freezing rain warnings for the areas highlighted in pink. Winter storm warnings as we head further to the north. That just means we have a mix of different winter hazards. And for the blue, that's where we're looking at the snowfall warning of flooding. So we are going to keep you posted on all of that. Stay with us here on the Weather Network. Here's the rainfall totals. We've already seen Kennedy Lake, 377 millimeters of rain near Tofino. We're going to have much more on the rain and the wind story coming right up. Stick with us. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Weather Network as our live storm watch coverage continues. I'm Michelle Mackey, guiding you through what is a very busy day and night across Canada. Of course, we have a big system on the west coast bringing wind and rain to BC, and on the east coast and through central Canada, we have a nor'eastern. So if we look on the radar right now, we can see the areas in blue. That's where we're looking at snow. That includes Montreal, where we will be joining Mike in just a moment. But first, I do want to point out that Quebec City has transitioned from snow to rain at this point. So keep that in mind if you're heading out driving. All right. Mike Arsenault joins us now in Montreal. Mike, can you fill us in with what's going on? Great advice, Mike. Thank you so much. Of course, always good to help out, lend a helping hand to neighbors in need. All right, let's get back now to our weather story. From Montreal, we transition into Ontario, Toronto, through your Thursday morning, 10 to 15 centimeters on tap. So yes, this map does say through Friday, but the bulk of that snowfall will be falling before 10 a.m. So that is bad news for GTA Thursday morning commuters. Definitely want to set your alarm a little bit earlier because the morning commute is certainly going to be longer than usual. As we transition further to the north, that's when we begin to see those snowfall totals accumulate, increase through the overnight. And as such, Environment Canada has issued snowfall warnings for the areas highlighted in blue, including North Bay, Parry Sound, Huntsville, Gravenhurst, Barrie, and Wyerton. We're expecting an additional 15 centimeters through the overnight. So driving conditions not going to be good. Make sure you have those snow tires on. Absolutely not. I'm a bit of a baby when it comes to the winter. All right, let's get back into it. What are we looking at through the Maritimes? For the areas in green, that's where we're seeing rain. And as we transition north, we see temperatures drop and we see that change from rain to freezing rain. And because of that, Environment Canada has also issued some freezing rain warnings. So for the areas highlighted in pink, that's where we're looking at the freezing rain warning. We're also looking at snowfall warnings for the areas in blue and winter storm warnings for the areas in that orange. Winter storm warnings, that's an indication of a few different types of winter hazards. So we could see snow, we could see freezing rain, we could see blowing snow, a combination of those making for very hazardous conditions. The day and evacuations currently in order for the city of Courtenay. For more on that, please visit courtenay.ca. This will be enforced by the RCMP. More coming up on that. Let's take a look now at the rainfall numbers. We've already seen Kennedy Lake this week alone, 377 millimeters of rain. This will continue through the Thursday night. Stay with us. Our live storm watch coverage continues here on the Weather Network. Of course, lots going on from coast to coast. We have a big system in the Pacific, and we also have this nor'easter bringing with it lots of rain, lots of snow. So for the areas in blue, we can see on the radar, that's where we're looking at snow. And that includes Montreal, where we find our reporter, Mike. And Mike, you have a very special guest with you. Can you tell us what's the latest? Can't go wrong with a shopping spree, right, Mike? All right, let's get back to our weather story now. So, yes, we've got the snow expected for Montreal. You can see 15 to 30 centimeters through Friday morning. But the big story for Toronto is that 10 centimeters of snow expected to fall before 10 a.m. So, yes, that Thursday morning commute definitely going to be affected. So I know you don't want to hear it, but set the alarms a little bit earlier than you usually would because it will be a slow going commute. So we will see those flurries continue throughout the day. But again, the bulk of that snow falling through the morning hours. As we transition further to the north, we begin to see those snowfall amounts increase. And that is why Environment Canada has issued snowfall warnings for the areas highlighted in blue. So we're looking at an additional 15 centimeters of snow to fall through the overnight. So for the affected areas, do take care. If you're out on the roads, make sure you've got your snow tires on. And even if you do have your snow tires on, remember, not everyone else does. So be careful and be mindful of others on the road. All right, we take you now to the East Coast where we have, let's go to the West Coast. Why not? All right, so before a tapering off Thursday afternoon. And good news for you, we've got a nice weekend in store. Well deserved after all this wind and rain. So as we can see, peak wind gusts for the start of this week, Solidar Island, 157 kilometer per hour peak wind gusts. We're talking hurricane force winds there. So it will be a good idea to maybe bring in your outdoor holiday decorations through the overnight so they don't blow away. Now, rain, of course, is also our big story. So we can see here Kennedy Lake. This one really jumps out for me. 377 millimeters of rain since Monday. Typically for this area, we like to see about 400 millimeters of rain in a month. So even in BC standards, this is a lot of rain. This is something to definitely take seriously. And through Thursday, we have another 30 millimeters of rain on tap for the area. For Vancouver, that's a similar number. As we head further north towards Squamish, that increases to an additional 60 millimeters of rain. So we do have some rainfall warnings in effect and issued by Environment Canada. We want you to take these seriously. And before I let you go, I do want to point out that the City of Courtenay does have an evacuation order in effect. For more on that, please visit courtenay.ca for everything you need to know. Stick with us. I'm Michelle Mackey. Thank you so much for tuning into the Weather Network. Of course, our live storm watch coverage continues. Lots going on from coast to coast. We have a nor'easter on the East Coast, also affecting central Canada. I'll get to that in just a moment. But first, let's talk about the issues we're experiencing in Western Canada. Of course, this Pacific low pressure system bringing with it significant rainfall. And as such, we're looking at states of emergency that have been issued for Parkville, Courtenay, Delta. And I do want to point out the City of Courtenay is currently under an evacuation order. This will be enforced by the RCMP for windsurfing. Probably not a good idea, but hey, if you know what you're doing, that's what you want, right? The wind. All right, let's get back to our rain story. So additional rainfall for the areas highlighted in green, including Tofino, 30 to 60 more millimeters on tap. And I do want to point out Kennedy Lake, just outside of Tofino, has already seen 377 millimeters of rain this week alone. So that extra on tap, this is a lot of rain, even in British Columbia standards. All right, you are warm inside and not having to drive. Now, I do want to point out, if you would ever like to send in any photos or videos, you can do so at upload.theweathernetwork.com and share in our weather story. We always love to connect with our viewers. All right, let's talk the snow amounts that we're looking at through our Maritime provinces. So for the areas highlighted in white, that's where we're looking at about 25 to 50 centimeters of snow through your Thursday night. And because of that, Environment Canada has issued several watches and warnings. We have wind warnings in effect for the west coast of Newfoundland. We're exceeding the 100-kilometer mark when we talk about gusts. So really, really gusty conditions. Make sure you bring in all of your holiday decorations through the overnight. You don't want to find them down the road. We also have winter storm warnings in effect, freezing rain warnings in effect for areas in New Brunswick. So again, please take care if you're out driving. Now let's take a look at our rainfall totals through Thursday. Halifax, Lunenburg, we're looking at about 60 to 100 millimeters of rain. We've already seen the majority of that, but nonetheless, it's going to be a wet start to your day on Thursday. Definitely want to make sure to bundle up the kids in their waterproof gear and the umbrellas. Similar story for the areas highlighted in red through New Brunswick. So those rainfall warnings currently in effect, freezing rain warnings in effect. And let's transition to Montreal. Of course, this is the same system. He's going to be shoveling, helping out a hand, and giving us all of the latest. So let's talk about where we're seeing that snow. So through Ottawa, Montreal, that's the snow. As we transition further towards Quebec City, that's where it transitions into freezing rain. That's quite recent. Earlier tonight, that was snow. It's just recently become a rain story. All right, now I want to show you something interesting. This is Highway 405 through the GTA. So the snow has started already through the Niagara region, and it's continuing to track towards the west. So by 3 a.m., that's when we're starting to see the snowfall through the GTA, and a lot of it, about 10 centimeters of snow expected to fall before 10 a.m., just in time for that Thursday morning commute. So set the alarm a little bit earlier. You're going to need a little bit of extra time because it's certainly going to be slow going, and we definitely would rather have you go slow and safe rather than fast and sorry. As we transition further to the north, our snowfall numbers begin to increase. Environment Canada has issued snowfall warnings. More on that coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning into the Weather Network as our live storm watch coverage continues. My name's Michelle Mackey joining you, and we've got lots going on across the nation. On the west coast, we have a Pacific low bringing quite rainy and windy conditions to BC, and we also have this nor'easter. That's what we're looking at here on the radar. We can see green. That's where we're looking at rain. The pink, that's an indication of freezing rain or mixing, and blue is snow. And blue happens to be right over Montreal, and that is where our reporter Mike Arsenault joins us. Mike, what's the latest where you are? Wow, yeah, I mean, it looks beautiful, but for drivers, beauty, not so much. More like treacherous driving conditions. Thanks for that, Mike. Okay, we bring you back now to Ontario. Of course, that system, as it tracks to the west, we begin to see snow through Toronto around that 3 a.m. mark. We've already seen snow moving into the Niagara region. And as that system pushes to the west, that's when we see lots of snow. That's the big story. So before that 10 a.m. hour tomorrow morning, we're looking at upwards of 10 centimeters of snow for the GTA. So I know you don't want to hear it, but you're definitely going to need to set those alarms a little bit earlier because the commuting time could be doubled. We all know what happens when 1 to 2 centimeters falls in the Toronto area. So 10 centimeters, it's going to be a whole new level. As we track further to the north, that's when we begin to see those snowfall amounts increase. So Environment Canada, as a result, has issued some snowfall warnings. We're looking at additional 15 centimeters for the areas highlighted in blue. That includes Parry Sound, Huntsville, Gravenhurst, and down towards Cottage Country as well. All right, from Central Canada, we take you now for St. John throughout the day, and we're going to be approaching that 100 millimeter mark by the end of tomorrow. So yes, there's our marker for St. John. Yarmouth, we're looking at 36 millimeters. This is what we've already seen, and through Halifax, 45 millimeters. Let's check in now with our infrared satellite. This gives you a live, up-to-date snapshot of what is happening right now. So these are our cloud tops. As you can see, where we look at the purples, that indicates dense, high clouds, and that's where we're more likely to see the precipitation. So right now, the heaviest of it is over Halifax and Moncton. So lots of rain expected. This will continue into tomorrow. Make sure you pack the kids with their umbrellas and their rain gear because it's certainly going to be a wet one. All right, through Thursday night, like I was saying before, 60 to 100 millimeters on tap for your total number for Halifax, Lunenburg, also portions of New Brunswick. And again, Environment Canada has issued those rainfall warnings, also freezing rain warnings as we track further to the north. And above that, the Gaspé Peninsula looking at upwards of 25 centimeters of snow.